In this screencast, we will talk about how to write a concise summary. Writing summaries is an important skill that will be useful to you throughout your academic career and beyond. It is important to understand how to read a text critically and summarize either its main points or the points that are relevant to your argument. When you summarize a text, whether it be an entire chapter or article, or simply a passage from that text, you are briefly restating the content of the passage or article. That is, you are identifying the main or relevant points of the text. Three things that you do not include in a summary are minor details, repeated details, and your own opinion about the text you're summarizing. Sounds easy, right? It's not, but it's a skill that can be acquired with practice. Here are some simplified steps for you to follow. Read or skim the article to get a general sense of what it is about. You skim an article to decide if its contents are useful to what you're trying to accomplish, and you read it to get a better sense of the article. Next, you'll break down the passage. Once you have a general idea about the article's contents, reread it, but this time highlight key points and take brief notes about the passage. Perhaps you could highlight what you think are key points in one color, like yellow, and minor details that stand out to you in blue. This way, you know that you'll only include yellow highlights in your summary, but the blue highlights might be helpful to you if you go more in depth on the subject. And this is something you'll likely do when you're creating a research paper. As you highlight main points, you will eventually be able to determine the author's purpose for writing the article, their argument or thesis statement. Remember, a thesis statement introduces an article, and then the main points of the thesis statement are elaborated on throughout the writing process. We'll practice this skill later in the term, but for now, we're just interested in discovering the author's central idea, that is, their argument or thesis, and the main points of that argument. From here on, I will use the terms thesis statement, argument, and central idea interchangeably. Once you've summarized the author's central idea, you'll continue to break down the passage into sections, labeling each section and writing a 1 to 2 sentence summary of that section. Pay careful attention to key terms throughout the passage and include only main points that elaborate on this article's central idea. Once you've completed this process, you will have notes that include a 1 to 2 sentence summary of the author's central idea that you can combine with the subsequent sentences you generated as you summarized each section of the article. Now you're ready to draft your summary. To do this, first combine your thesis statement and summaries into one passage. Add any additional significant details if necessary. Then you'll revise. The first thing you need to do is eliminate any repetition or unnecessary minor details. The goal is to use as few words as possible while maintaining the integrity of the passage. Once you've completed this process, check your summary against the original passage for accuracy and completeness. Finally, work on sentence level revision. There are several things you need to consider during the sentence level revision process. The first and most important are applying appropriate active verbs and transitions. You'll need to know the author or distributor of the article so that you can attribute ideas to that person or organization. If the article is written by Jane Know-It-All, then your transitions would include phrases like Know-It-All suggests, states, proposes, or discusses that, or according to Know-It-All, ... Consult the attached PDF called Active Verbs and Transitional Phrases. This handout will likely be helpful to you throughout the semester. As you continue to revise, check for appropriate style and clarity. Are you writing exclusively in the third person? Are your sentences clearly written? Read the summary out loud to listen to how it flows. Also, check for choppy sentence structure. Choppy sentences occur when you string together several short and simple sentences. This can also occur when you start several sentences in a row the same way. Combine choppy sentences to improve the flow. And finally, check for grammar, punctuation, and spelling issues. Well, I hope through this screencast you've picked up some tips on how to better summarize the ideas of others in concise and specific ways. Remember, these are useful tips that you should apply not only to this assignment, but throughout the term and in all your academic and professional writing. Good luck on your first major assignment in this class, and email me if you have any specific questions or concerns.